All right, welcome into Another Dooley Noted Podcast. We'll have a great show for you today. As you can see to my right, my good friend Cooper Carlisle is joining us in studio. And then later on the show, Brad Culpepper will also be joining us. I don't know why they schedule all these Florida athletic events when my podcast is on. For some reason, though, Mother Nature said, hey, you guys need to quit watching the Gator baseball game. You need to watch the Dooley podcast. So you have a rain delay right now, a lightning delay for Florida, USF Florida trailing that game 3-2. We'll give you updates a little bit later in the show. A lot to talk about, including extensions for the football and basketball and women's basketball coaches, all that. But we're going to go ahead and start with the great Cooper Carlisle, who was one of the best players to play here and then had a long and illustrious career in the NFL. Is illustrious the right word to use there?
I don't know if it's the right one, but I'll take it.
But, when you came, I always wondered this. Why from Greenville, Mississippi? Why did you come to the University of Florida?
So actually, I was born in Greenville, went to high school in Macomb, Mississippi, which is a little down further south, Mississippi. So both my parents went to Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the Mississippi schools, LSU's close, but Ole Miss was going on probation. So that kind of that was the Billy Brewer probation era.
So that would have been like the 95 recruiting class you'd have been in, right?
Right. 95, and then 95 was my freshman year. So spring of 95, I graduated high school and then came to Florida. So really it came down to, ironically, Florida, Alabama, and Texas. And chose Florida, and obviously very glad I did.
How much of that was the Spurrier? Because Spurrier didn't recruit hard. He always come in, we'll go beat you there.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he recruited hard enough, and he sold a good product, and he had very good assistants recruiting well. So all that, usually equals some pretty good players. But I think just I love the brand of football they were playing at the time, and I grew up watching the SEC, so I wanted to play in the SEC. But like I said, I'm certainly glad with my decision.
So that first year you redshirt, they sent you. I mean, how big were you at that point?
I think when I got on campus, I was about 260 somewhere, probably about what I am now, and I certainly wouldn't want to go play right now. So yeah, I needed that year.
They beefed you up.
Yeah, I needed that year in the weight room and just maturity to be ready to play a SEC season. But
at the same time, you're also sitting there watching a team go undefeated and go to the national championship game, and you probably were itching to get out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you always want to play and think you can play. I think I did, and I think we had a good offensive line, a lot of those older guys, and Jason Odom and Jeff Mitchell and that crew was still there. So, you kind of realize that, these guys are older, mature, better players than I am at the time. But you're right, you do want to play.
And then obviously the next year you got to play on a championship team, national championship team. And, Jeff Mitchell was still there. When he goes down, though, what are you guys thinking at that point?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that, as you know, like every point in your career, you just kind of, the train doesn't stop, right? The game's coming, whatever. So you kind of figure it out. Obviously, Jeff's a great player and played on to be a great player in the NFL too. But you just kind of got to figure out who goes out there. We had a lot of young guys, a lot of freshmen, or a lot of guys my age. I think we had 6 or 7 in my signing class, so we were kind of all figuring out where we fit in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then the next year, obviously it wasn't as good a year as you guys hoped, and that's the funny thing about where we are in this world now. That team lost 2 games. They lost to Georgia. I'm talking 98 team. They lost. Let's see, this is what happens when you get old.
I'm with you. It's hard for me too.
Where games are. You lose the game in Tennessee in overtime on a missed field goal and a made field goal, and then you lose the game in Tallahassee, which they still boggles the mind to Marcus Outson.
That one's tough.
But that team was that good, and at the time, everybody's like, "What a disappointing season!"
And '98 was the same thing. You lose to a good LSU team at night and a good Georgia team later in the year. I mean, those are 2 really good teams where, you don't win the SEC, you don't even win the East, and then can't win the SEC, can't win the national championship, and then all of a sudden, it's a failed season.
Well, yeah, but then your senior year, you do get to the SEC championship game. If Doug Johnson hadn't thrown his arm out throwing too much, who knows whether you guys could have won that game. That was a good Alabama team.
That was a good Alabama, very talented team. We lost them earlier in the year, kind of on a botched extra point, really, and then
no, it was a missed extra point. And I'm going to get Jeff Chandler on here one day to talk about it.
Well, I mean, look, we all have bad plays, right? But so we lose that. We're thinking pretty confident, but we had some injuries a little bit as the year had gone and kind of beat us up, and then faced, like you said, a good Alabama team, Sean Alexander and several other players, and really just that game kind of snowballed on us, and they beat us up pretty good.
Yeah, it was 31-7, something like that.
Maybe even 34, I don't know.
Yeah, that was a good team, no question about it. So, you're probably going to get drafted somewhere. Did you have expectations to go higher or lower than you when you went to the fourth round? I think, right?
Yeah, I was in the fourth round. It was kind of where I thought I would go. I thought I would be anywhere between third and fifth, and so obviously fourth right in the middle there. So it was pretty close to where I thought I would land. You obviously don't really have it's not an exact science where you're going to go, obviously, but it was somewhere in that range I felt pretty good about.
And that's the funny thing is it was kind of the same career you had in college. It took a little while for you to get into the lineup. Mm-hmm. When you finally started playing, I think you had 33 straight starts for Denver at the end of your career with them, and then went to Oakland and started a ton of games there.
Yeah, you're right. Again, Denver so when I got to Denver in 2000 was my rookie year. They had just won the whole thing in 97, 98, right. And had a lot of good players and a lot of good players up front, a lot of good offensive linemen. So it was, and I think at the time they kind of believed in, kind of grooming linemen as much as they can. It's a lot easier to do it with a fourth round pick than the first round pick, mm-hmm. obviously, but it worked out for me. Again, you get frustrated as time goes on and kind of want to get on the field, and but it was probably beneficial for me playing longer, as far as saving the hits, saving the wear and tear.
13 seasons. It's pretty amazing. 133 starts. I mean, you should get a bonus of some kind for that.
I know. I'm still waiting.
Well, the good thing is, this is a stat that I'm sure many of you don't know about Cooper Carlisle, and I may even be surprising him with this. He played 13 seasons for Denver and Oakland, recovered 11 fumbles. That's an amazing stat.
Yeah.
Are you just always looking for the ball? Were the centers fumbling it?
I don't know. I did not know that stat, and I don't know where it ranks amongst other offensive linemen. But
I would mention
I'll take it.
For right guards, that might be a record.
Yeah, it's probably quite a few of them. I don't remember a lot of them. I remember one in Oakland late in the game. I recovered one, and we ended up going down and scoring. That's kind of the only one I really to win the game. That's the only one I kind of remember.
So who were your coaches in the NFL, head coaches?
So Denver, the whole time I played 6 years in Denver, or 7 years in Denver, and I had one head coach. And so in Oakland, I get there and I played 6, and I think I had 4. So I had Mike Shanahan was the entire time in Denver. Then I get to Oakland, and Lane Kiffin was there. He gets fired, and Tom Cable's hired. He gets fired. Hugh Jackson's hired, and then Dennis Allen was my last head coach.
That is pretty amazing. Sometimes you forget Lane Kiffin even was at Oakland.
Yeah.
But I remember, when he was at Tennessee, I said, "You watch, he'll take that Southern Cal job because he wants to go back out there,
mm-hmm.
and coach again." But it is, when you think about an amazing career, to play 13 years and you're still walking around okay.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I've got a lot of little stuff. Nothing, hopefully too major, but a lot of little stuff, but it's manageable at this point.
Now, when you sit here and you watch Florida football now, because obviously this has been a program that under Dan Mullen has kind of gotten back. They're not quite there where everybody wants them to be. And again, now these days you go to New Year's Six Bowl 3 years in a row, and everybody goes, "When are they going to get over the hump?"
I know.
But one thing that has stood out, and maybe you can explain it to me, these guys have always, under Dan and under John Hevesy, really good pass blockers, not very good run blockers. Can you explain why that is?
I can't. They do protect very well. I can't. I never played in a spread offense. When I was coaching high school, we had a little spread stuff, and everybody has a little bit of spread. When I was in Oakland, we have a little bit of stuff, but so I don't know the ins and outs of coaching the run blocking and spread. I know that you can, the front side can become the back side pretty quickly if the quarterback keeps or whatever. So, but I don't have a short answer for you. I don't know it. But like I said, they do protect. Certainly last year protected very well, and even the year before. But the run game, hasn't quite been as efficient, maybe as it could have been. But if you look across the board in the NFL, typical, it's hard to be ranked high in the passing game and a running game. It just, for whatever reason, and you had, Kyle Trask was very efficient last year and a good player, and they kind of rode him to most of their wins.
Yeah, when you think about how they have not been able to run and still been that efficient, still scored an amazing number of points. But one thing I wanted to ask you about is, because this is a different world we live in now, with the NILs and transfer portals, and I don't know that you ever would have thought about transferring. You kind of were set here, but just how easy it is for people now. The SEC yesterday, I believe it was, came out and said, "Hey, you want to transfer to a school within the conference? Fine, we're letting you. Everything is legal now. You can do anything you want, and you can also go to, Campus USA, where we're doing this show, and sign some autographs and make some money."
I know. I don't know how I feel about either. So for the transfer portal, I do think that all these guys come in, so highly recruited and so sought after from such an early age now. They're getting recruited earlier, and they're, it's such a recruiting's a little bit, even more than when I was there for sure. So it's, they're so sought after. They're so kind of like think they're going to be the next, Kyle Pitts or whoever whoever the next guy is going to be, whatever position you want to throw out there. That when they're not immediately, then I think they're like, look for who to blame, look for where to go so quickly. And I don't know. I think there is a place for transferring. I do think it works out for some people. I think it's necessary for some people. I don't think it's necessary for an immediate, knee-jerk reaction, get out of this program, go to the next, grass isn't always greener type deal. So I do worry about guys, if you don't play for 2 years, sometimes that's okay. I played with a lot of guys in the NFL that are great players that didn't play early in their college careers. Not everybody is, whoever the Peyton Manning comes in early and, lights it up, or whoever that may be, Johnny Manziel, or whoever the freshman Tim. But so I do worry about that. As far as the NIL, I don't know enough. I do think, obviously, there's some concerns for everybody, I think. I don't know I can't decide if the compliance guys are going to like it or not like it. I don't know if they're going to.
Somebody's going to like it because they're going to get a job, because they're going to have to hire more people.
Right.
To do that. But that is what one thing Florida did early in the process was hire a firm to kind of manage it and to educate these guys. Look, we'll show you ways you can make money, but there's still rules that you have to follow. It's not like, hey, give me $100 and I'll come and eat in your restaurant. You can't just, you have to come up with the rules that are going to be followed, and we still don't know what those rules are.
Well, that's my whole thing. I don't know what the rules are. My concern with that is the bigger picture for me. Concern is, I guess, if I'm a guard and you're a center and you get, Chevrolet guy to give you $1,000, well, I'm like, well, why didn't he give me? We're similar players.
Yeah.
We're
playing right next to each other.
Right. So I don't know where I don't want that to cause any dissension amongst players. Look, everybody knows when I was playing, look, Danny was going to get more than, the tight end or the whatever, the fourth wide receiver, whatever it may be. Right. And he should have, in my eyes, but some people might not look at it that way.
Well, and that's the other thing that I've mentioned, and until we kind of know what's going on, let's just say in your locker room, the star wide receiver didn't get any balls thrown his way that day because they doubled him. And now he's like, hey, my deal isn't going to go through if I don't catch X number of balls. You got to throw me the ball more. I mean, it could open up, and then I'm getting in the transfer portal now because you're not throwing me the ball enough. So I think that's the big concern. Like I think we both agree that we want players to have more rights, but it almost seems like they've gone willy-nilly and just gone crazy and opened up this big Pandora's box.
I agree. I want them to have more rights. I want them, and I'm not against players getting, benefiting financially from their play on the field. I mean, I know we all get scholarships, and that's the whole initial argument, right? You get your school paid for,
right?
Which is a big deal and can benefit you for, the rest of your life. I get that, but I'm not against. I don't know the rules, and like I said, I don't think the rules have been fully established. And I'm sure they're going to cap it at some dollar amount, right. I would think. And
or they could say you'll get it when you graduate.
Or yeah. So I don't know the full rules, and I'm not sure.
They do.
Yeah, I'm not sure they do, or certainly it's not been passed to me. And I think that's their concern too, right? If we're talking about it on this podcast, they've talked about it for the last 2 years or whatever it's been. So, I mean, they're hopefully going to make the right decision, and then I just feel like they better make the right decision early because it's going to be tough to get the toothpaste back in the tube, right? If they happen to do it wrong early, it's going to be tough.
By the way, why did you? You lived in Denver, which is a beautiful place, and why did you move back to Gainesville? Why did you? Was there just something about this? Village.
Gainesville's. I always say Gainesville's kind of easy living, right? I think it's a good place to raise a family, and it's just kind of easy living. When I was retiring, we were living in California, and I liked California actually more than I thought I would, and I liked Denver a lot. My wife did not.
Did you meet her at Florida?
I did. She went to school here.
Yeah.
She went to school here. So she didn't like those late snows that come, and the winters were kind of. Even though Denver's a mild winter, sunny place, it's still you get some tough days. So she didn't love that. So we just said, look, we'll give Gainesville a shot, and we've been here since 2013. So it's been a while now.
That was the year you retired, right?
2012 was my last season.
I remember I covered in September. I was covering a Denver-Miami game because I was covering a lot of the Dolphins games for the Times Union out in Jacksonville. And I was dressed like this. And I got there, and there's snow on the ground. I'm like, what? There's snow on the ground. And then I kind of survived it, but the Dolphins had this huge upset. Nat Moore had this huge game, and they beat Denver at the time. So that would have been, you might have still been there. So they, after the game, the fans are so mad that there's all this snow piled up. They start pushing it on the Dolphin players.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm in that Dolphin, and I'm so drenched, and I'm like, Denver is a cool place. I love it. I went out there in the summer one year and went to Pikes Peak and everything. And
it's beautiful. I loved it, and it's what I like to do. It's a lot of outdoor stuff, which I like. But like I said, I don't regret the decision to move here at all.
Oh, you love it here. Now, do you get to go to many games?
I do. Yeah, we go. We have tickets, and we go to most every home game. We enjoy it. It's different being a fan. When I first came back, I watched it like I was watching film, kind of. But now I watch it more like a fan. Kind of watch the ball and. Not necessarily.
You ever yell at the coach or anything?
No, I don't do that anyway. But it's we enjoy it. It's fun. My kids like it. My wife likes it.
Think about this: I remember the day that Steve Spurrier became the first $1 million coach in college football, and Dan Mullen just signed a deal. It's going to pay him like $6.5 million. But I mean that's inflation, and it's the way it goes. And but there are a lot of people that are not thrilled that he's the 5th highest paid coach, and because he hasn't even been to the playoffs yet. But the SEC is just printing money.
Yeah.
And they just said, remember when COVID was going to wreck all the athletic departments financially, and just last week the SEC said, hey, we got $23 million for team just laying around here. You guys want it? We'll give it to you.
Yeah.
You got to keep spending it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dan's a good coach. I don't know, as far as where he ranks and whatever. I mean, I'd like to keep him, and that's what the AD thought. So let's keep him. So that's kind of my thought. Like, I mean, these guys. My only issue with all these coaches' salary, and I don't know, pretend to know enough about it. I'm sure these agents would get mad at me, but the buyouts kind of do seem a little crazy to me. That's what gets me. I don't think Alabama could pay Nick Saban enough for the last decade. Whatever they paid him.
Because the money keeps coming
right,
in.
and their school, I think their enrollment's doubled since he's been there.
Yeah.
Not that it's all him, but
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, so I don't, and I'm fine paying these coaches. They work hard, they put a lot of hours in, they bring a lot of revenue to the school. So be it.
Well, you mentioned you did a little coaching. Did you think about getting into that full time or?
Not really. I coached high school with some guys that and it was fun. We enjoyed it. But it's kind of one of those things. You coaching is you can't be half in on coaching, right? So you gotta. And my kids were younger at the time, and they still are kind of young. But
how many do you have now?
Two girls, 15 and 11.
That's what I have. 2 girls. Yeah. And you know how much trouble that can be.
I know.
The older they get, they're great when they're young.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But it was getting tough as far as coaching. I enjoyed it. I liked a lot of aspects of it. The coaching part. I liked the coaching on the field. I actually like, trying to pick apart defenses. I enjoyed. But and I may do it at some point, just high school again. But we'll see.
All right, we are going to have Cooper hang around for one segment that we do a lot of different little fun things here, and this today we're going to do 3 things while you're still here and get your take on this. 3 Things is presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville, and of course, Another Dooley Noted is presented by Titan MRI. We love Joe over there. What a great guy he is. He has actually had a tournament right after my tournament. And luckily, the great people at Gainesville Ice had donated all the ice, and so we had a big ice box, and they didn't come pick it up, so he got to use it for his tournament. So it was good. All right, 3 things presented by Hand Law. Number 1, I am not a jinx. I went to one football game as a fan. First one I've ever been to, because I've always been a writer. I went to the LSU game.
Ooh.
A guy threw a shoe. They lost. It wasn't my fault. I went to the Super Regional for softball. Remember we talked about that last week, guys? They lost. I went to 3 baseball games this year. They lost them all. So I'm not going over there. Right now they're in a rain delay, so I'm not going over there because I don't want. But I'm not a jinx. It's just coincidence. Anybody ever accuse you of being a jinx at anything?
Well, not that bad. My record's better than that.
Well, but look at all the games I went to as a sports writer and all the games that Gators always won.
You got to carry a pen and pad or something at least.
I should have a tape recorder.
That's right.
Walking around. All right, number 2. Goodbye, Lakers. Sorry. And I wonder, and again, I was kind of rooting against them, but I wonder if the old man, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, his injuries and all that, how much of that had to do with the fact they played this bubble season and then 4 months later they're back playing again. They didn't. I mean, what an off season, and you have OTAs and stuff. I don't even know if you had OTAs back then, and you have voluntary practices. But to come back and play as hard as you have to play to win a championship, and then come back and play that hard in 4 months, I think it may have something to do with why they just weren't able to physically be good enough.
Yes, I do not disagree with that, but every time I hear that, it does make me think like those teams that do it over and over and over, the Brady New England teams, it makes you think like, man, that's even more impressive than, the guys that do it, you go to that many Super Bowls, your off season is shortened by, Tom played, I'm just using the football analogy, but Tom played, I don't know, X number of months more than the Bengals guys, right? Or whoever never made the playoffs.
He played into
amazing.
February.
Yeah, every year. So he probably played 2 more years if you add it all up.
Well, that's why he drinks all those weird shakes.
I guess.
By the way, and I didn't even write this one down. I just remembered this. They announced me yesterday that USFL is relaunching. So you may be able to come back, make a comeback?
Oh, I don't think so. There's no senior tour for football players.
The 2 years of the USFL were the best 2 years of my life. I had so much fun covering that league. It won't be like that. Back then, they had so many good players. There were 15 guys. I don't know if everybody knows this. Once they folded, the next year they had 15 Pro Bowlers that came from the USFL. It was a great league. It was a lot of fun to watch, and we had a lot of fun as well. All right, and finally on 3 Things presented by Hand Law. Number 3, Johnny Manziel describing on Barstool Radio how much money he made a nice living, he said, as a student at Texas A&M. But he says, I didn't start until after I won the Heisman, so you can't take the Heisman away. Look, they can do whatever they want, the Heisman people. They've taken Reggie's away. They took away OJ's. They took OJ's picture down. I don't know if they took Reggie's picture down or not. But they definitely took OJ's picture down. And who knows what they'll do there. But the NCAA can't do anything about it now. But just to hear him kind of bragging about signing stuff and making a lot of money. And we've seen guys get in big trouble. I think it was Todd Gurley got suspended for some games and stuff like that. I tell you what, I get that students and the student athletes believe in having rights, but you still have to follow rules.
I agree.
I mean,
I think it's going to be tough. I think that's, we just visited this. I think they'll have to sort the rules out pretty well before they unleash everything.
Nobody offered you any money for some autographs?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
As far as you know?
Yeah.
I
don't remember that.
Well, Cooper, it's been a great having you here. And we've been trying to hook up and get this done for a couple weeks now. You're one of my favorite players at Florida, one of the most versatile players to ever play at Florida. You could play. Did you ever play center?
I didn't. I'm a lefty, so it doesn't come back to him that great.
Okay.
Quarterbacks don't like it.
But maybe it would to Tebow.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I didn't have him, though.
Yeah, that's right. It was a little later. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Brad Culpepper, Pep, will join us. Of course, he is on the ballot now for the College Football Hall of Fame. Let's get you on that ballot.
Yeah, I don't know. But I hope Brad makes it. I think he deserves it. Of course, you look at that list, and it's hard to argue against anybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the problem with it. So we'll do that when we come back. And thanks so much to Cooper Carlisle for joining us. We'll be back with more of Another Dooley Noted Podcast right after this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
This is Pat Dooley, and I want to tell you about my friends at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. I'm a member, and you should be too. It's the oldest Gator booster club in the world and a great place to meet new friends, network with prominent business people, and hear a great collection of speakers, including Dan Mullen, throughout the football season. Go ahead and give John Stevens a call at 352-222-8516 or sign up on the website, quarterbackclub.org. Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and to our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Millhopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brew To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Ribco to go. Come on down and enjoy it. Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast, and today is a day with royalty coming on the show. We had Cooper Carlisle earlier in studio, and now live from where he works is the great Brad Culpepper, one of the best players to ever play here, and on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. Brad, how are you?
Mr. Dooley, good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I mean, usually I only see you on Survivor or something like that.
Well, I guess now with Zoom, it's easy to see all of us these days.
That's right. Well, it's funny because I was asking Cooper what he weighs now. He said he's down to 260 from 320 where he played. And you played at what, 285?
Oh, not quite. I think in the pros I played about 275. At Florida, I was probably only about 245, but I'm about 205 now.
That's pretty amazing. That is pretty. The college career you had was a great one, and of course, winning the Dratty Award, which I think should be automatically qualify you to get into the College Football Hall of Fame, and hopefully we can get that done this year. But this is the third time on the ballot. Has that been disappointing to you at all?
Oh, not really. I really don't think about it that much. There's some fantastic football players on that list. And so, I'm not quite sure how it works out. I know that Lomas was on there before me, and I was actually very happy to see Lomas get in. It's well-deserved, and it took him a little bit of time. If it happens, that's fantastic. If we need to wait and it happens later, that's great. If it doesn't ever happen, I'm honored to be, thought of and put on the list anyway.
It is pretty amazing when you were a 245-pound defensive tackle that just wreaked havoc on teams, and that to me is amazing that you were able to do that. Was it all just the ability to be quicker and the fact that you were a very smart football player?
Yeah, a combination of all things. I mean, quicker, smarter. I don't know. I was pretty strong, so I was able to put it all together. You were talking about the Campbell Award. I think it's probably more impressive that I don't know how many defensive tackles won the Campbell Award. Yeah. That's not typically a position where you think of somebody who's a little bit cerebral. But no, I don't know. I was able to be successful, jumping snaps and kind of understanding, the way offenses ran. And, it's just so many reps. I even tell my kids who are now grown and, playing football and doing all the things themselves. But even in high school, and maybe and I don't recommend this, but I went to Leon High School in Tallahassee and played varsity football as a freshman. Actually, that was the first year I ever played tackle football. But it was terrible. We had a game on Friday, and we would practice in full pads on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And Thursday, the day before practice, we'd be in shoulder pads and helmet. And, it couldn't have been healthy for my body. And I know I'm surprised nobody dropped dead because we only got one water break in a 3-hour practice. And this is the way Gene Cox had it. But it made me a very tough, strong football player, so that when I got to Florida, I couldn't even believe they were letting us drink water anytime we wanted. That was something that never happened in high school.
Gatorade.
No, that too. But I don't know. I felt like I was ahead of everybody because of the amount of bull in the rings that we did, or the one-on-ones, or the hamburger drills, or the Bama drills. And it was all just so aggressive and so physical in high school. I don't know that other players had done that. And I don't know, it gave me an advantage at Florida. Even, I was redshirted my first year. but I swear all that hitting and pounding that I did in high school really kind of gave me a better, I don't know, foundation to get ready for college football. And I don't know, I was very successful, I guess, all the way through.
What did you think, though, the day that Steve Spurrier came in to be your head coach and said, we're going to pitch it around?
Well, it's fun. I think we were starving to have a good offense. I think Florida, it had, pretty good defenses in the past, but it really never had the, top notch. I mean, they'd had some glimpses of success in the 80s, but it was more of a basic, grinded out type, as was all of college football and especially the SEC. I think everyone was excited to get his brand of football in, and keeping us off the field made us just that much better. And he obviously immediately, he changed Florida football, he changed Southeastern Conference football, and he changed college football all the way around. He single-handedly moved it from a Vince Dooley, Pat Dye style grind and pound to the Steve Spurrier, which changed to the spread and everything else that's happened. But he transformed college football there in the early 90s.
Yeah, he did. And obviously you played in some huge games as a result. And I don't know if for you the 91 FSU game was your favorite game. It may have been another one. But that 91 FSU game, I think, stands out as one of the best ever at Florida.
No, it was. And they were really good. Bobby Bowden had taken advantage of Florida being on probation, and they'd recruited, had amazing recruiting classes. And his tenure in the 90s, was just as good, maybe better than Steve's. They were in the top three, I think, for 14 years or whatever they were. But being from Tallahassee and losing to them every single year I played them, especially in 90 when we had a really good team, but they were loaded as well. And they put it to us pretty strong in Doe Campbell in 1990, Steve's first year. So it was kind of a revenge match for us in 91. And quite frankly, they were the same team. Casey Weldon and Ampley, they had some really good players and really good defense. So our backs were against the wall. It's like, wow, why are we going to do any better than they got beat by 30 points up in Tallahassee. Why is it going to be better? But, they had a really strong offense and we really shut them down defensively. And then we had a nice long drive at the end of the game to seal it. And I think that was the, icing on top of my career at Florida. Of course, that being my senior year, my last game at Florida Field. I definitely remember, there were some other games, some LSU games, beating them at their place, and Alabama's smoking them 35-0, or 3 or whatever it was at home. That was a good one too. But definitely the 14-9. And I'll run into some old timers that remember that game still, like yourself, that can appreciate it and say, "Oh my God, I still remember you from the FSU 14-9 1991 game."
Well, old timers like me also remember one of your teammates who just recently passed, and Tim Pauk. And I don't think a lot of these younger fans understand how good a player Tim Pauk was. But tell us a little bit about him.
Tim was a great player. He and I were freshmen together, and he got redshirted as well. Godfrey Miles, I think Godfrey passed too. They were roommates, and Godfrey was the Adonis. He looked the part. Tim was a little bit thinner, smaller version, but Tim was probably twice the player that Godfrey was, even though Godfrey ended up playing. Godfrey was a great player. I shouldn't say twice the player, but at the University of Florida, Tim was amazing middle linebacker. You weren't expecting it. He was from Carroll City and had like a gold tooth back when, gold teeth weren't the thing. They had tattoos. Nobody had tattoos back then. But the thing about Tim is he was super smart. He kind of played that down a little bit. I don't think you'll find anybody who played with Tim that didn't think that he was really a smart person, not just a smart football player. He had a little bit of a lisp and he talked definitely, street, Miami tough. But he would come up, he was a history major, and he would come up to me and I wouldn't see him all year in class. And he'd be like, hey, I need you to help me out a little bit on this, European Renaissance history class before an exam. And I was like, well, gosh, Tim, I didn't even know you were in there. And I would give him some notes or something, and he would actually study, and I'll be dang, he would make a B. And I was always amazed, but I knew that, and he was a great football player. I think when, he got drafted by, I think, Atlanta, and just got in with a bad crowd. Probably Atlanta he needed to go to Green Bay or somewhere where he wasn't going to get caught in kind of the nightlife and stuff. And he never really hooked on in the NFL because I think he, was kind of pulled different ways and not in a good way. But Monica and I, when I told her that Tim had passed, she was like, oh my God, he had such a pretty smile. Tim was great. And so I have fond memories of Tim and listen, we would not have won the SEC or been the best in the SEC in 90 and without Tim Paulk. I mean, he was a definite great player in that defense.
You mentioned best in the SEC, and that Coach Spurrier keeps talking about that. He's not going to ever let that go. Does that mean a lot to you players? Because even like a guy like you won it the next year, but he wants to make sure everybody acknowledges that 90 team.
No, for sure. And I think he kind of lumps in the teams together, which I'm fine doing, although I tease my buddy Kirkpatrick all the time because he was a senior, obviously, on the 90 team. But no, I kind of lump those teams in together. I mean, Huey Richardson and Kirk and just, all the different guys, that were on that 90 team. It was almost like they felt like they were a part. I'll tell you who feels a part of both of them too. I think Emmitt Smith does. I remember him down there after he beat FSU or after, we won those. I mean, because he was, of course, a freshman brother with us that either were seniors in 90 or seniors in 91. So I'm glad that Steve does that. And it's a tribute because it was, we don't want to dive into inside baseball with this, going on probation, but that was all stuff that had happened in the early 80s and mid 80s and didn't have anything to do with any player that was on the team, didn't have anything to do with any of the coach that was on the team. And it was really unfair and draconian on the behalf of NCAA to kind of keep us, penalize the players and the coaches instead of maybe the institution for what we'd done in 90. I mean, it was a crock, but is what it is, but I'm very glad that Steve recognizes everyone. I think all the players, even the ones that were in 91, give a lot of credit to the 90 team as well.
By the way, do you miss your neighbor? Isn't your neighbor move out?
My neighbor did move out. His boat is still there. My original neighbor moved out about 5 years ago and went down to Miami to run the Marlins. And then he ended up renting. He's my direct neighbor. His house is 10 feet away from ours. So then it was a good luck charm for Mr. Brady last season. He moved, actually, we're on Davis Island. He moved to another house on Davis Island. So we'll see if that house gives him as good luck as that house he was in. And although it's probably his neighbor that gave him the good luck versus so we'll see if his new neighbor can give him as good a luck as they had last year.
Yeah, it was also fun watching your son play some football this last year.
Yes. So my oldest Rex was at Syracuse. He was there 5 years and threw for 10 touchdowns last year and was quarterback. He's now going to go start law school at Stetson here this fall. So he's doing that. And then my other son, Judge, was at Penn State, and the defensive line coach that recruited him, and he was doing really well, got up. I don't say upgraded, but maybe it was an upgrade. He ended up leaving for the New York Giants last year. And so they brought in a new defensive line coach, which wasn't a good fit. They basically they're basically doing a two-gap defense now at Penn State. Matter of fact, number 55 is going down to Florida. He's leaving for the same reason Judge left Penn State, because it's really not a good penetration defense. And so Judge is now at Toledo and extremely happy there. And then I've got my daughter, who is a basketball player at NYU. So a little bit all over the place, although I guess my one son at Syracuse is now home in St. Pete. And so they're all slowly coming home, but we're enjoying the Violets. So I've got all my NYU stuff as well.
Well, we all know that it's that Monica DNA that has made them great athletes. There's no question about that.
Well, they're definitely not ugly, which is very fortunate that Monica brought that into the mix too.
Hey, it's always great talking to you, Brad, and good luck with the Hall of Fame. You know, we're rooting for you. If I can influence some people, I'll try. And you belong in there. There's no question about that. And
I appreciate Pat. I do. If I was able to make it in, and I'd make it in before my man Sapp. So he's not in it yet. He saw the blurb that I was on, and he goes, "Oh man, you better not make that thing before I make it." So that would be good to have one up on him.
Oh man, I remember walking in to the Bucks locker room, and Sapp would be sitting there with no clothes on, and a chaw that was bigger than his head in his mouth, waiting for all these people to interview him, and you're just like afraid you're going to get spit on. He was a piece of work.
Oh my God! Well, he's from a Popka. You can't get that Popka out of that guy.
Now he's.
I see Warren. I see Warren quite a bit, which is he lives down in Miami, but he's up here. I think his girlfriend lives up here, so we see him often and go to dinner or whatever. And I'm sure I'll see him at John Lynch's NFL Hall of Fame deal.
Sure.
We'll both be up there. Of course, he'll be bigwigging with all his Yellow Jacket friends, or Gold Jackets, I guess I should say.
He'll be hanging out with those barbecue pitmaster guys probably too.
Right. Yeah, no, he sent me a video about that just yesterday. But Pat, I appreciate you having me on, and if it happens, that's fantastic, and I'll credit you if it does.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. I finally get credit for something. Brad, thanks so much for joining us.
You got it, Pat.
All right, Brad Culpepper, one of the great Florida players of all time, and certainly a great NFL player. We didn't talk a ton about his NFL career, but he played for a long time with the Vikings and, of course, with the Bucks for a while, and always kept in touch with him for a long time. And great guy, one of the great guys. And, of course, was on Survivor, and his wife was on Survivor. In fact, I remember one year for our golf tournament, Monica sent us some stuff that from Survivor to auction off, and we appreciate him. And pretty excited to have those two guys, those two big-time NFL players on today. So Monday's show, by the way, I'm not going to tell you who's gone because I've been trying to get this done, and it may not happen, so I don't want to tease anybody. But we will have a good show Monday, I promise you. I'm pretty sure we haven't had Robbie on in a while, so we need to bring Robbie on. Of course, everybody loves having him on the show. All right, we got to take a break. We'll try to see what's going on with the baseball game because they were in a rain delay, and I don't know where they are now. I'll update you on that. We still got to get to the Adams Rib Co. Gator of the Week. Leonardo's Millhopper Quick Picks, Friday Football Fix, things, this, that, and the other. So we got a lot of stuff to get to when we come back on Another Dooley Noted Podcast. This is Pat Dooley, and I want to tell you about my friends at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. I'm a member, and you should be too. It's the oldest Gator booster club in the world and a great place to meet new friends, network with prominent business people, and hear a great collection of speakers, including Dan Mullen, throughout the football season. Go ahead and give John Stevens a call at 352-222-8516 or sign up on the website, quarterbackclub.org.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer to go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. to go. Come on down and enjoy it. Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and to our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Millhopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube or listen at your leisure
on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
All right, welcome back to another Dooley Noted Podcast. Appreciate everybody for clicking on. This is, of course, presented by the great people at Titan MRI. We love them to death. We want to get to all of our other things. Don't forget, if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, you can do that every Friday and Monday, or Monday and Friday. You can also listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Overcast, and any of the 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast, or as Robbie calls them, Codpass. Don't ask me why. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. All right, so the Adams Ribco Gator of the week, I was planning on something happening during the baseball game I could talk about. The baseball game isn't over. It's far from over. They're still in a lightning delay. In fact, I just got a weather alert that there was another lightning strike within 10 miles. I think it's 8. That if it's within 8, you can't get on the field. So they're not playing baseball right now. They're down 3-2 in the top of the 6th. Mace gave up 2 homers, and but isn't pitching terribly. They're just listening to the broadcast with Jeff. Apparently, they had the same umpire that they had for the Friday softball game at Georgia last week, because that guy was awful, and this guy apparently is awful in the strike zone. I always liken college baseball strike zones with the umpires to a windmill. You got to hit the paddle, and it's constantly going around. But if you hit the paddle, so you can throw the same pitch in the same spot, but if you didn't hit the paddle, you don't get the call. It's ridiculous. But you have to play. I always say this: play around officiating in any sport. You're always going to get bad breaks. You're always going to get bad calls. You're going to get guys that are incompetent. You're going to get guys that you think are incompetent, but actually are pretty good. Doesn't matter. Got to play around it, and we'll see if the Gators can do that and continue on. So we talked about this last Friday, and we were following it, and I actually got to talk to Sam Riffus this a couple days ago. I'm doing something for the alumni newsletter on him. Really good story, and he is our Gator of the week. I told you last Friday he probably would be anyway. I thought something might happen in the interim, but nothing did happen. So Sam, who is the national champion in men's tennis, I didn't know this, and he and I talked about it a little bit, and it'll be part of my story, that he had COVID for a while, right around Thanksgiving. And, it wasn't serious. It wasn't too bad. But just another example of a guy overcoming that and overcame so many things. But Sam Riffus is the Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And thanks to all the great people over there at Adams. We love them. And they do a tremendous job. That Adams Ribco to go is unbelievable. I have been there many times. I can tell you that. In fact, I might go there tonight. I think I will. All right. So we appreciate them. Now, it is time to do the Leonardo's at Millhopper. Quick picks. Leonardo's Pizza, of course. I could go there. I got a tough choice. I got several sponsors that I can go to. All right, the quick picks, and this is going to be one we're not going to know for a while, but I'm kind of into this. I got into it watching the James Madison game the other day, and I will say this: ESPN does a great job of covering the Women's College World Series, but when you go on their website, find a score. Go ahead. It is difficult. So I wanted to go and see who had won and lost the last game of the night, but it took me literally 10 minutes to find it out, and I never did find it on their site. But I'm just going to put this out there, and you got until the end of the weekend to answer this question. Okay? So we should get a lot of qualifiers because there will only be so many people. Who is going to win the Women's College World Series? Now, the winners of the first round were James Madison, UCLA, Oklahoma State, and Alabama. The losers are still alive. Don't forget, it's double elimination. They are Oklahoma, stunningly, Florida State, which is good, Georgia, which is good for being a loser, and Arizona. I enjoyed the heck out of that game the other day. with Odyssey Alexander pitching, and it was so funny. They talked about the last time, or the only time, a 1 seed has lost in the first round to an unseeded team was 2008, and that was Florida. So I was there for that, and I thought this was true, and I went and looked it up. The exact same game. It was a tie game going to the 8th. Somebody hit a homer in the top of the 8th, and they won. The difference, of course, and maybe it won't be different, and this is why Oklahoma's not out of it. Florida came back and won the next 4 games, and Stacey Nelson was unbelievable in them. And finally, they lost to Texas A&M in the game that would have sent them to the finals of the College World Series, Women's College World Series. They lost 1-0 in extra innings. Now, I remember that it was riveting to watch all that, and I will always, when I talk about things I miss about being a sports writer, Oklahoma City for the College World Series is one of them. Not necessarily the games, but Oklahoma City. I love Bricktown. Not even Oklahoma City, Bricktown. Just that part of it I really love. So for Leonardo's at Millhopper, quick picks, all you got to do is give me a winner. Who's going to win it? And we won't know this until next Wednesday? Or Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday we'll know it, who won, and we'll have some more qualifiers. We had one, I think, the other day. I got to look that up. All right, it is time for This, That, and the Other. It is sponsored by Ballyhoo Grill, where I will be a guest bartender on Monday night. So if you come in there and whatever funds they generate, they're going to give, I think, 20% to Stop Children's Cancer. Chris Harry did it Tuesday night of last week. Unfortunately, I thought it was this Tuesday night, so I didn't go, and I feel bad. But it doesn't mean he has to come to my Monday. But if you guys want to come Monday night and watch me bartend, could be ugly, could be broken glasses, but at Ballyhoo, come on over there. It is also brought to you by the great people at Shakow Insurance, and of course Ironwood Golf Course, which has gotten some rain finally. Golly. It was like, it started raining the other day when I was on the course, and I'm like, what is this stuff? But at any rate, This, That, and the Other, which, as you know, I love. We'll start with this. Players need more rights. We just talked about that with Cooper Carlisle. Players needed more. They finally gave them a stipend. That's not enough. That money's not enough. All right, they're on scholarship. They get everything for free. They get all their medical for free. They get a great platform to show their stuff. But it wasn't enough, and everybody agreed that it wasn't enough. That is that they basically said, all right, we're going to do all these things, but they couldn't do it. The NCAA, which is incompetent, could not do it without getting the governments involved. Well, now we still have a giant mess. Is it going to happen in Florida and Arizona and Texas, but not in Rhode Island or whatever? So it's a giant mess. And the other is that coaches can tell you they're not leaving because of this, but I think they are. I think that Coach K leaving, now what he says is it's another NCAA issue, right? It's that they won't allow them to spend enough time with the players to develop relationships, and that's why the transfer portal is going nuts. But I think this is a little part. I think the whole mess that the NCAA has created by its inactions is part of the reason that he left, that Roy Williams left, and why people think about this. Coaches who leave for the NBA, and there's only 32 jobs in the NBA, so you're not going to get a lot of 32 or 30. I don't even know. Doesn't matter. But coaches who leave college, successful coaches, and go to the NBA used to return. Rick Pitino being a good example. But now they don't. Billy Donovan. Nobody brings up Billy Donovan when these jobs open up anymore. They don't even bring him up because they know Billy doesn't want anything to do with college. College is a mess. They don't, John Beilein, do they bring him up? Guy was unbelievably successful, national champ. No, sorry, he didn't want any part of it either. Who was the other one I was thinking about just the other day that went from the college to the NBA? And his name didn't come out. I'm blanking out on that. But that is the other, and that is what is going on with college basketball. It is a mess. It is an absolute mess. And, the only ones who seem really happy about where it is are the people that are cheating. People like Will Wade and Bruce Pearl. Those guys are happy. Anyway, I got off on a little tangent there, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so that is our This, That, and the Other, sponsored by Ballyhoo Grill, Shack Out, and Ironwood Golf Course. Finally, our Friday football fix, sponsored by the Gainesville Quarterback Club, and they're meeting Tuesday. Looking forward to it. And their speaker will be Garrett McGee, who is, of course, the quarterback coach now at Florida. Took over for Brian Johnson. Here, our Friday football fix. How about some early spreads? Let's do that. Of these big games that are going to be happening the first weekend. Alabama. All right, Miami's back, right? Everybody knows Miami's back. They're 17-point underdogs to Alabama. Alabama lost all its players. They're 17-point underdogs. You're not back when you're 17-point underdogs. Doesn't mean you can't win the game. You won't. But you're 17-point underdogs. Clemson is a 4-point favorite over Georgia. Interesting bet there, because a lot of people think Georgia's going to be really good this year. I'm still not totally convinced about Georgia. LSU, 3.5-point favorite over UCLA. And that tells you that people don't know what to think of LSU, because UCLA is obviously under Chip Kelly has not done well, but they're supposed to be better. I think people are just like, hey, we don't know what's going on with either one of those teams. We'll see what happens. And Notre Dame, 9.5 points favorite over FSU, which is not back and is not claiming to be back, unlike Miami. FSU knows they still got a ways to go to get back. Notre Dame, be interesting to see what happens. That game is in Tallahassee. If it was in Notre Dame, it'd probably be more like 13 or 14-point favorite. So there's some early spreads from our Friday football fix, sponsored by the Gainesville Quarterback Club. We appreciate them, and we'll see them Tuesday night. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to, actually, they're meeting at the Best Western Grand now out on 39th, and you can join. Man, it is a great club, and there are all kinds of great speakers, almost as good as we have guests here on the show. Hope you enjoyed today's guests, and they were great. We'll have good guests Monday. I'm not sure. I don't want to make promises I can't keep, but certainly today, Cooper Carlisle and Brad Culpepper. I know that we do have Brian Shelton lined up for the following Friday. We're probably going to have to tape that. I need to talk to Evan about that. And then I have Charles Davis is going to join us next Friday too. We've been trying to get him for a while, and he's been busy, but he's going to join us next Friday. I'm trying to line these guys up one after another, and we'll have a good June. There may not be any sports going on in June, very very few that we care, but we'll keep it going. All right, we've gone long, but who cares? It's the internet, right? All right, so until next time, and again, thanks to Cooper, thanks to Brad, thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. I am Pat Dooley. I'm deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.